In the news just a few days ago, Les Moonves was ousted as the Chief Executive Officer of CBS Broadcasting. We'll talk about the effects on the Star Trek franchise after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and the news has been pretty active with a number of things, but not the least of which was the fate of Les Moonves. He has been, for the last 20 years or so, the Chief Executive Officer of CBS Broadcasting. To back up a little bit, at one time, CBS and Paramount were both owned by a company called Viacom. And Viacom was owned by a company called National Amusements. Well, some years ago, about 20 years ago, National Amusement broke up the network on one side, called it CBS Broadcasting, and put Viacom on the other, which owns Paramount. And those run as separate companies, although they still have the same parent company, which is National Amusements. And in the way this works, that means that the owner of National Amusements, his name is Sumner Redstone, is the majority stockholder in both Paramount and CBS. However, they run as separate companies, they have separate CEOs, and this is what caused a lot of the problems with Star Trek early on, with the fact that you have the Kelvin Timeline movies on one side, and you have the CBS All Access series now, along with the other television shows that were aired on various networks since the original series. With that, we have known for some time that Les Moonves, who is the CEO of CBS Broadcasting, was never a Star Trek fan. He didn't really get what Star Trek is or what it's supposed to do, and really had no interest in it, despite the fact that since CBS has owned the Star Trek properties, that fans have been after him for a long time to put on shows. Finally, somebody came to him with the idea of using Star Trek as a way of promoting CBS All Access. They wanted to start their own streaming network. Now, without getting into too many details, many of the other communication companies have a big streaming presence. CBS was last to get into cable. They have been last to get into streaming. NBC and Fox had gone together on Hulu. ABC had its own online service for a time. I think they've joined Hulu as well. So CBS was kind of left out by itself. Plus the fact that the networks, since the split that National Amusements caused, the other networks have done just the opposite. NBC and Universal Studios are now under the same umbrella. ABC and Disney, and soon to be 20th Century Fox, are all under the same umbrella. And Fox Television Network and the Fox Studios, before it was sold, were all under the same ownership as well. So it allowed the production companies and the networks to exist in the same universe, and also they were able to innovate by doing other than broadcasting, streaming, and such as that. Now, CBS has bragged for some time that they are the most watched network, and that's true. But they are also one of the smallest big communication companies out there. Netflix is bigger than they are. Amazon Prime is bigger than they are. There are a number of services out there that are into new media in the way that CBS is only getting started. And so CBS has been playing a game of catch-up. And according to articles I've read, it's been Les Moonves that's been skillfully keeping CBS relevant, that broadcasting is something that is still relevant. Now, you may believe that's the case, and it may be true, but most of the people who talk about these kind of things these days are saying that networks are kind of fading into the past, that people are cutting the cable cord and going to streaming services like Netflix, like Amazon Prime Video, like Hulu. So CBS, in playing catch-up, puts up CBS All Access, and Les Moonves agrees to let Star Trek come in as a way of boosting subscriptions to this. Now, that's been kind of an unpopular move, especially with Trek fans, and the fact is that they're not attracting much anybody else because they don't have anything except for reruns of other shows. I mean, I Love Lucy reruns, which you can probably see elsewhere, reruns of the old Hawaii Five-0, reruns of the new Hawaii Five-0, things like The Good Wife and The Good Fight, and I guess a more risque Big Brother, I don't know. But all of these things are on CBS All Access, and they have very little original content there, with the exception of Star Trek. And with that, as we've reported here before, Alex Kurtzman, the executive producer of Star Trek Discovery, has been given a contract in which he will produce 4 new programs. One of them will have Patrick Stewart, 20 years ahead of the last time that he played Captain Picard. Then there will be a Star Trek cartoon series. There will be a Star Trek series based on Khan. And they've already registered a couple of names. One is called Destiny, and the other is called Reliant. Both of those terms seem to follow along with the Khan narrative, and gives you an idea that the Khan show might happen sometime between the time that Khan took over the Starship Reliant and when they met up with the Enterprise. It's going to be a miniseries, so they could stretch that out and have other adventures before they meet Kirk and ultimately their demise. Beside the point. So Les Moonves has been accused of harassment of over a dozen female employees of CBS, and there was enough proof apparently, or something, that caused the board to oust Les Moonves. Now, it could be that, or it could be this fight that's been going on between Moonves and the daughter of the owner of National Amusement, Sherry Redstone. Sumner Redstone, as we mentioned earlier, was the head of National Amusements. He's about 89 years old now and not doing so well, we understand. But his daughter, who is about, I think, 64, I believe I read somewhere, is trying to have more influence over the CBS board. And she and Les Moonves were battling each other. And this bit of serendipity that Moonves is caught has given her the advantage. Now, she has said that upon having pretty much won control over the CBS board, that she's going to wait 2 years before having anything to do with putting back together the National Amusements package, which had Viacom on one side and CBS on the other. Putting them both together would mean that all of the Star Trek properties would be under one umbrella, under one ownership, and then there are not this problem with who has the rights to this and who has the rights to that. And what they're telling us right now is that's going to be 2 years down the road. Now, what that means is that Discovery is stuck in the Prime universe. They can't go over into the Kelvin line. So whatever they do, they're going to have to fix with original series and so on timeline canon, which in the early run of this would appear that they have departed from it. Some people say there's no way they can go back. I think probably they can write themselves out of it. And it looks like that they're trying to do that now with the introduction of Captain Pike and bringing in the Enterprise, a story about, what happened to Spock, and a little bit of research into the childhood of Michael Burnham and Spock. This may, in the long run, as we've mentioned before, bring us back into canon after a time. While the deals have been signed on the shows that will follow that, it is possible that the unification of Paramount and CBS could come about in such a way that the following series might be able to combine the timelines or use the best from both. We don't know. Certainly the one that's going to be done probably the soonest with Patrick Stewart will be, of course, in the Next Generation, the aftermath of the Next Generation, and we're not certain whether he is going to be a starship captain or an admiral or an ambassador or what. So that's going to go ahead pretty much as planned. The other series will also happen, but with the merging of rights, there could be a different kind of not only television show made, but different kinds of movies. Now, right now, Quentin Tarantino's project still looks like it's going forward. It's going to be R-rated, but they say that it's not going to be so profane as it will be perhaps more bloody. He had said in recent interviews that maybe the adventures of the Enterprise C in the battle with the Romulans and joining with the Klingons might be something that would make a good movie. Although he does want to use Chris Pine and the current Kelvin timeline characters to do that. So I don't know exactly how they're going to make that work, but that's something that has been talked about in the movie side of things. But anyway, as far as we can tell, the ouster of Les Moonves, even though he was never a Trek fan, is not in the short term going to make a great deal of difference to what we see on Star Trek. But in the long term, it could have something to do with what the future series are going to be about and what the future of CBS All Access is. My guess is that they're never going to be able to grow a big audience based on what they can offer unless they can do something much more compelling than they've done before. What they've done has been good quality, but it's not enough to draw the non-Trek fans, which is what they need to make it viable. My guess is that the new management would go ahead and make a deal with Netflix eventually, and CBS All Access would go away with some of the other networks, independent streaming services that started out early. It probably is going to shake down into about 2 or 3, maybe one that we haven't seen on the scene yet. But I kind of doubt that CBS All Access is going to be a long-term network as a result. But the good news is that anybody is likely to be a bigger Star Trek supporter than Les Moonves was, and that might just be good news for the Trek universe. I'd like to know what you think about this and other things below in the comments. Please do so, and if you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. Until our next video, don't go far.